So the reason why I'm here today is because I want to demystify a little bit the field of product management. I get contacted online, on LinkedIn a lot about being a product manager, people that want to be a product managers, people that are product managers, and I want to know how do I do what I do, or how can they become a product manager. So I would start with my journey. How did I get here? Where did I come from? How do I get to where I am now? And why am I here talking to you guys? What are my credentials, right? I was born in West Africa in a country called Algeria. This is not a picture of Algeria. This is a picture of Senegal. That's where my family lives. I was there a couple of years ago, and I took this great shot. It's like a huge map of Africa. That dome over there has about the size of a football field. So yeah, that's why I was born in the 1980s. I'm not going to tell you guys how old exactly I am. I moved to the United States in 2005. I went to school in Wichita State in Kansas, studied computer engineering. I then moved to Salt Lake City, Utah in 2009 to enroll in a doctorate program in biomedical engineering. After that, I moved to Seattle in 2015. I love that picture. It's a jersey of Shaquem Griffin. Who here knows who Shaquem Griffin is? You know him? The Seattle Seahawks player is the one with one arm, like he is missing part of his limb. He's a great inspiration for me because he still does what he loves to do, even though he was born with a bit of a defect. The only football jersey that I own, I felt like I deserve to buy it. I watch his game all the time, and I've never wore that jersey, but I keep it in my closet just to remind me, keep it for inspiration purposes. In 2016, I got my second product manager's role at GE Healthcare. I put it over here because it was significant for me. It was an enterprise product that I had a chance to run. My team was building an image analysis software for GE Healthcare. I can come back to that later. 2019, this has been a busy year for me. I enrolled in the MBA program at the University of Chicago. I'm part of what they call the weekend warriors. So every weekend, I fly to Chicago to take class all day long, and I come back Saturday evening to Seattle. I got a job at Providence St. Joseph. This is huge because before that, I was a technical product manager, and now I'm a global marketing product manager. We have a digital innovation team within Providence St. Joseph. We build software for the hospital, from the application, the mobile app for the hospital system, but also different platform that patient can use to talk to the providers. Like you can take like telehealth on your phone or on a laptop. And I also got married in 2019, a few months ago. Thank you, to my sweetheart. We had been dating for 7 years. I said 7 years. She says 8 years. But yeah, we got married. So this is me. This is me. So let's get started. So I had to put this slide down. What does a product manager do? It's one of those memes. What does my mom think I do? Can you guys see okay? Are the lights okay? Yeah. Right. I thought this was really interesting. Just Googling what does a product manager do. This is one of the first slides that you get. I really like what my mom thinks I do. She thinks I'm Steve Jobs introducing iPhone for the first time. I wish that was true. I like what I think I do. I think I'm Superman, like just saving the world. In my case, actually possibly be true because I work for a hospital. But what I actually do is just running around like a chicken with a head. That was a great one. I love this one. Let's try again. Like, what does a product manager do? The product school published this picture on their Twitter page a few months ago. Right? It's like a couple product managers dressed with like a bunch of sticky notes, which happen to be one of the favorite tools of product managers. Right? Like sticky notes and Sharpies, usually before they've shipped their product. Right? They do a lot of planning. Roadmap planning, sprint planning. In my office at Providence, there's a lot of sticky notes everywhere. The building it's a glass building. So they have to remind me all the time to remove the sticky notes but they always find a way up there in my office. I love this one too, it was great. So one more, like what does a product manager do? Who here knows who this guy is? Steph Curry, right? Like this is when they won the second championship. Right? I get a lot of that. Product managers are rock star, in particular after shipping. They get a lot of attention, a lot more than engineers, which is maybe not so rightfully so. But the favorite tools are PowerPoint presentation and ABS. Always be selling, right? As a product manager, you have to have your pitch. You have to have your 30-second elevator pitch. Somebody can wake you up in the middle of the night and tell you what does your product do. You got to be able to tell them what your product does, what is the value proposition, and how does it help people. But just a little more seriously, right? What does a product manager actually do, right? So my thesis is that it depends. It depends on the life cycle of the product. Anybody have seen this chart before? Right? It's product life cycle. It evolves, right? There's an introduction phase where you're still trying to find out what the product is, still trying to feel like what are your corners. You ship your first version of your MVP of your product, then it goes through a growth phase where you acquire more customers, right? The product gains maturity. You get to a plateau stage where you've cornered the market, you've captured as much customer as you can, potentially, and then it goes into a decline phase where you start to find what's your next thing. So at each one of those stages, the different activities that you do depend. So for the next few slides, we're going to dive into each one of those, and then we're going to talk about some of the activities. And I'm going to try to use some of the examples from my own life and some of the product that I have managed in the past. The first one, in the introduction phase, what you will hear if you take a course like the one here at the product school or some of the other schools is the term ideation. You guys familiar with that term? Right? Ideation is when some of the ideas are created. There's a lot of brainstorming processes that take place. People sit in rooms. Usually you have your tech team. If you're lucky, you have a product design team. You have a user experience. You have a user research team. Trying to come up with the right combination of features that will formulate your MVP. Right? It's a lot of experimentation being done, a lot of learning, still trying to find out what exactly your product is going to be. You have an idea, but you want to find out what the user wants, right? Like what solution you want to solve. Sometimes the best products are not the one that will make it to the market. So you want to understand like who your customer, you want to segment your market, you want to find out what solution works for each one and which one you want to put out there. Building and shipping is a huge part of introduction, obviously, for your product to be out there. You have to collaborate with engineers to get the product built so that you can eventually ship it and put it in the market. Right? For prioritization, expansion, hopefully in the growth phase, you start gaining more sales, depending on your product, or more users. So if you're a product like Amazon, it may be sales, but if you're a product like Spotify, it may be users, right? If you have the network effect, the more users you have, the more valuable your product is. So that's when, in this stage here, you want to start thinking about it. Or it could be geography too. Like if you're a product and you feel like you've cornered the American market and you may want to go to India, or you want to go to China, or Europe, then you want to expand geography. That's the phase in which you do it. Some of the activities involved here, again, some brainstorming. You may want to collaborate with your sales team over there in that different country, just understanding what they like to use over there. It could be different features that you have to build in that product, but what you want to do what you can to expand. And the last thing is learning and feedback. At this phase here, you will start getting feedback from your users, right? From your original users and from new users. It's very important for a product manager to listen to the field, listen what your user have to say, because that will determine if you leave or if you do not leave. For feedback, some of the metric that we track is NPS, Net Promoter Scores. You definitely always want to make sure that if your product is user-facing, that you have an option for them to give you feedback. And you want to make sure that you're reading that every day, because that will tell you how your product is performing. In the maturity phase of the life cycle, like you've started to plateau, you've cornered the market, you've done a good job, congratulations. Again, tracking metric is, again, top-down. It's very important. You want to know how you're doing. Your product leaders will come to you every day asking you how you're doing. For my current product, I own the virtual platform at Providence Hospital, which enables patients to do a visit with their doctors. At any given time, any given day, somebody can ask me how many male users, how many female users, I mean, what percentage, how many people are paying with a credit card, with insurance. I know those numbers at all time, right? Profit, at this stage, hopefully your product is starting to make some money, right? You're starting to generate some revenue. You want to lower the COGS. COGS stand for cost of goods sold, right? Like if you're a product manager for Coca-Cola, you have suppliers. The supplier that sells you the bottle, the supplier that sells you the sugar, right? You want to engage in activities to decrease that cost so that you can maximize your profit, right? So you want to engage in conversation. You want to find out how you can negotiate better to get those costs down so you can maximize your profit. Retention and feedback. A lot of product managers spend a lot of time trying to gain new users, or try to gain new customers. You can think of a funnel, right? Where they want to get more people in the funnel. One thing that is sometimes simplified, right, is like the fact that your best users are your current users, right? Your best customer is your current customer. So instead of constantly adding new people in, you also want to find a way to get your current user to reuse your product, right? So that's the retention part. You do not want, if you are Spotify, you don't want your customer to go use, it's like Jay-Z has a, do you guys know, what? Tidal, right? If you Spotify, you want to keep your user at Spotify. You don't want them to go use Tidal. Although I think Beyonce owns part of it. So, and reporting at this stage, and maybe even at the growth phase, they have to do a lot of presentation to the top level executive in your company. I am in a meeting every Wednesday, which is called a WBR, a weekly business review meeting. If anybody is at Amazon, you guys will have heard of that term. Where my skip level, who is the chief marketing officer for Providence, is part of that meeting. So that meeting is for him. So I get to report to him. That is a reporting pace. Everybody wants to know how the product is doing, right? They are not necessarily paying attention to the same level of metrics that you are, but they want to know. They want to know that you keep track of them. If it goes down, they want to know why. If it goes up, they want to know why, right? And in the last phase, the decline phase, this is actually a very exciting phase, right? Because you've done everything you could. You've introduced a new product. You've grown it. You now have a million users, right? You've made as much profit as you could from the product. Now it's time to think about the next idea, right? Like how do I get to the next generation of this product? Think of if you're product managers for Sony, you had the PlayStation 4, right? You've been hugely successful. You've sold millions and millions of systems. Now it's time to think about the PlayStation 5 system, right? So you want to do a lot of learning here too. You want to understand where the market is going, where the technology is going, what's the new technology out there. A lot of experiment, user group, bring people in, focus group, get a sense of where's the market going. A lot of promotion too. You want to you want to do some advocacy exercise. You want to make sure that your leadership, you want to make sure that your that the people, that your colleagues are on board. Like the engineers, you always have to drag them with you, right? Like you have to have the support. That's the promotion part in this phase here, in the decline phase. And hopefully this cycle start over again. Like from the decline phase, you go back to the introduction phase, you introduce this PlayStation 5 or whatnot, and you start again. So like a lot of these things is customizable, like depending on the product, depending on the team, it will be very different. Right. So I built this slide and I really like it. These are some of the 9 different tools that are used by a product manager daily. It's going to take us some time, but we're going to go through each one of them and we'll come to your question. I divided them in 2 groups. There is, in blue, some of the fundamental tools that a product manager has in a tool bag. Every single product manager I know have them, right? And in the left, in orange, are more advanced tools. Not everybody has them. It just kind of depends on your style. Some of them takes longer to acquire. Let's go to each one of them, and hopefully I can convince you that this slide is correct. Okay. The first one, I bar the term expertise, because I hear like a lot of noise of people saying that you need to be a domain expert. That's a fallacy. That's not true. You do not have to be a domain expert. I would posit that nobody is a domain expert in anything, right? There's a lot of domain knowledge, but not domain expertise. For me to be a product manager in healthcare, I do not have to be a domain expert in healthcare. I was not a domain expert in healthcare. I had some knowledge, and I can learn about it. I can get better at it. But you do not have to be a domain expert. Domain knowledge is good enough. Second one is curiosity. It's very important in product management. You got to be able to come to a new product. I guess it just follows the first one, right? You have to be able to come to a new product, whether it's Qualtrics, whether it's Amazon, Microsoft, and learn what you need to learn so that you can do the best for the products, like make the best decision for the product, whether it's prioritization, whether it's customer pain point, right? Through curiosity, you will learn what those are, what you need to build. Satya Nadella, the CEO of Microsoft, recently, he didn't coin the term, but he made the term popular, growth mindset, right? Which is about constantly be learning, like never be satisfied with what you think you know, but always seek knowledge. Always try to learn more, either from your customer, from the product itself. What are some of the features that you need to build to take it to the next level? COM stands for communication. It's extremely important. You will sell, like that was your ABS again, you will sell your product. Sometimes you have to compete. If you're in an organization that has shared resources, in my organization we have shared design resources. And my manager is the VP of product. She says that there is a three-prong approach where you have your product manager, you have your product designer, and you have your engineering managers. And she wants, for any feature decision to be made, she wants to have a consensus between the three, right? So between me and the engineering manager, we sit next to each other. It's fairly easy to come to a consensus. But the product designer, he's a shared resource. He doesn't just work on my product, he works on many products. So I have to compete for his time. I have to find a way to convince him that my product is important. To sit down in meetings with him and just hear him talk to me about product designs and why my product sucks. Right, so does that kind of answer your question about shared resources? Yeah, sometimes you just have to communicate and share the vision and share why you think that your product is important and how you're addressing the customer pain point. Customer obsession is very important. You will absolutely not build a feature that your customer use if you do not have the best interest in mind, right? There is people talk about empathy. Like, in order for you to have customer obsession, you need to empathize with the customer pain point. And for you to know those pain points, you have to be able to communicate to them on a daily basis. One of my customers is the head of a clinical team for Providence Hospital. She sits in Portland. We talk every day. She has my cell phone number. She texts me every day. She Skypes me. She contacts me on Slacks. When she has a problem, she says, hey, Howard, why is this not working the way it's supposed to be? I have a new idea for a feature you should be building. You want to have that relationship with your customer. One thing that we did at GE, because it was an enterprise product, we did not have the luxury to have that type of relationship with our customers, is that we built a user group here in Seattle. Most of our customers were, we built image analysis software and microscope for the pharmaceutical industry. Most of our customers were in the Boston area, the pharmaceutical industry, like Pfizer, Merck, Johnson & Johnson. Because we couldn't have the level of communication that we needed, we built a user group here in Seattle. There's a couple of biotechs here. That user group enabled us to come and collect feedback almost on a weekly basis. We organize conferences, we organize events just like this one here, like brown bags, lunch and learn, just so that we can talk to them and learn about the pain point. Next one is prioritize. We touched about it a little bit before. It's extremely important because you will be conflicted with a lot of different requests coming from all directions. It's very important to be able to prioritize. The most difficult prioritization exercise is when you have to debate between features that help the customer versus tech debt, right? So coming back again in that life cycle, at the beginning, you accumulate a lot of tech debt because you want to go fast. But it gets to a point where the tech debt is noticeable by the customer. They start seeing bugs and the feedbacks are negative. So you want to address some of the tech debt. Just being able to know what is the right proportion between user-facing features and tech debt is extremely important. And you're just going to have to, there's no magic number. You're just going to have to get a feel for it and see what works best for you. Like coming to some of the most advanced skill, and let me know if you disagree that these are advanced. But the first one is people skill. Some product managers are introverted, right? They just don't like to talk to people. I will argue that Steve Jobs, who is known as one of the best product managers ever, had really bad, really poor people skill, right? He irritated everybody he worked with. Nobody wanted to be around him, not even his daughter, right? The people skill is very important. At Microsoft, one of the things that they judge you on, in addition to being able to deliver a product, is are you going to be able to do it again? And that is based on the fact that if in the first time you created enough friction and you pissed off enough people that they will not want to work with you again, like you're not going to be successful again, right? So it's like, yeah, you've shipped this product, but are you going to be able to do it again? So your people skill will help you with that. Right, and then you heard the terminology, emotional intelligence, again, empathy, we come back to that term. You have to work on your people skill. Something that I'm consistently having to remind myself, just bonding with your team, go to a lot of coffee chats, right? Like, just get along, right? Otherwise, you will not be successful as a product manager. At least, if you want to be an advanced product manager, your people skill will take you a long way. I've actually seen cases where people skill is the only thing that carries somebody across, right? Just because they're able to bring people in the same room and get them together so that the decision can be made, right? The next one are tech skills, right? Like absolutely not necessary, right? But it's good to have. You have tech skills. If you can code yourself, you can understand when your engineer tells you that it's going to take 6 months to build a feature, when you know that it only takes 1 week to do it, right? So you can call them and be like, no, this is not going to be 6 weeks. And usually the best way to deal with that is like, okay, what is the minimum that you can give me? What's the MVP? Like, what is the 1 week version of this feature? That's usually the way to like get them to tell you the truth about how much time it takes to build that feature. So having tech skill help, but if you don't necessarily have to go acquire them. You can get by hacking. Say, for instance, if you have a lot of data to analyze, but you don't know how to write Python to help you with that, you can use pivot table, like to help you analyze the data. So those are ways to hack around your ways, and that will help you as a PM. If you don't know how to use pivot table, go learn on YouTube. That's part of hacking. Right? So you just have to have that mentality where if you don't know how to do something, go figure out how to do it so that you can meet the need for the product. Advocacy. That is when you have to be able to sell your product to your leadership. You have to be able to sell your product to the people you work with. You have to be an advocate for your product. There is a gentleman here in the Seattle area. He works for WeWork. I'm not sure if anybody is familiar with him. He goes by the name I'm the future of work. Have you guys heard of him? No? If you go on LinkedIn and if you do anything that has to do with WeWork, you will see his face, right? He's a great guy. He's a great advocate for his product. When I think about his face, I think about WeWork, right? And I think about his face, I think about we are the future of work, which is what WeWork want to be, right? So you want to be a great advocate for your product. And it's very similar to Inspire Followers, but to me, Inspire Followers is at the top of what a great product manager can have, right? It's just the ability to convince people to follow you, to use your product. Whereas it's just user using your product, or it is engineers wanting to be working on your product. Sometimes, if you work in an organization that has many product managers and many products, you will not get assigned to the most sexy product, right? And it's tough sometimes to convince an engineer to work on your stuff if it's just infrastructure, right? Like go rewrite architecture or go change our database from Mongo to Postgres, right? That's not a chatbot or that's not AI, right? So how do you get your engineer excited to work on this product? For the next slide, I just have some things that I've done in the past that were very successful. I call them my secret sauce. But the first thing is failure, right? Like fail often, fail fast. If you read the book, the Lean Product Management, Lean Engineering, Lean Development, they talk a lot about that. I use my failure as my badge of honor. The first draft of this slide was actually a list of every time that I have failed. And I took it off because that was just going to take all night long, right? Because it's just a lot of them, right? I failed a lot, but I'm proud of it, right? Because when I fail, I learn from my mistakes, and I know how to improve from it. So fail often, fail fast. The second thing is find your purpose. Took this slide from my behavioral economic professor. It's some sociology in this slide, but it's very applicable to this talk. Find what motivates you. Some people are motivated by extrinsic means like money, getting like recognition, popularity, or whatnot. But if you let that be your motivator, you will get disappointed, right? So find what motivates you. Hopefully, it's intrinsic. Hopefully, you take pride in your job. Hopefully, when you go to the office on Mondays with enthusiasm and not amateur. So the next one is curiosity. I'm extremely curious. I put three quotes from three people that I respect a lot, and it's timeless because I can see Satya is living now. Einstein was 100 years ago, and Confucius was thousands of years ago, right? Be a learn-it-all, don't be a know-it-all. Consistently be learning. Einstein said that death is when we stop learning. I think it's a little extreme, but what he meant is that as long as you live, always be curious, always seek knowledge. And Confucius said that if you were the smartest in the room, then you're in the wrong room. I like to say that we're all in the right room tonight because all surrounded by extremely smart and talented people. So continue to learn. Yeah. And I also have this picture. How many of you have seen this picture before? No? It's actually very common. Like in the core is your comfort zone. This is the thing that you do every day. As a product manager, maybe it's roadmap building or your sprint planning. That's your comfort zone. You know how to do it. It's almost routine. You do it on a regular basis. But when your manager asks you to take over this other assignment, it's back end. I've never worked with back end before. I've only done front end. Then I'm a little scared, right? Because I'm like, whoa, I'm not going to be successful. That is the fear zone. Right? You lack a little bit of confidence. Like, how do I approach that? Am I going to fail? But remember, failure is my cape. I'm not afraid of failure. So, I put myself out there. So I'm going to take over that project. I'm going to build that new product, right? And I go in the learning phase where I learn a little bit about backend. I learn the terminologies. What's different between a relational database versus a non-relational? Like, how do the cloud work, right? And I start building that product, and I get in the growth zone where now I can start becoming knowledgeable about it. I can talk about it. I can become maybe even an expert on it. And my only problem with this image is that it's a linear, it's something linear, whereas in real life, it comes back, right? So once you an expert in this new thing that you just learned, hopefully you look for something else, right? Hopefully there is something else that you get exposed to that you're not familiar with, and you go through that same cycle again, right? So the one thing that will make this figure better is if that arrow comes back, because what you've just learned, what you've just mastered, become your comfort zone, and hopefully you go through it again, right? Have you guys heard the term Montessori? Yeah, it's very Montessori-like. Start something new, master it, and then start again, start over. Go through this process. So that's something that has worked for me successfully. I've been able to get a new product, and I continuously learn from it and build better products. Last thing, I have 3 more slides, is give back. It's always give back. Extremely important. I put this quote over here. Anybody can guess where the quote is from? Pretty much goes, send the elevator back. Once you get to the top, always remember to give back. Michelle Obama, I absolutely love her. She was in Seattle not too long ago. She has a book that a lot of my friends are reading, right? She's been talking about the fact that when you get to that stage, whatever it is for you, always think about giving back, because only by giving back that you replenish yourself, and you have more to give. And that picture was taken, that was me in Mumbai. I was blessed to be in Mumbai earlier this year. A great time. I was there for 2 weeks. I absolutely loved it. I met this lady here, and then she took me to the slums, and we just played with the kids, bought them food and candy and stuff. We had a good time. The last thing is my last slide. To wrap up, I put together an acronym. This acronym would resonate with people at my job because our group is called DIG, Digital Innovation Group, and we're a bunch of nerds. So Nerd DIG would just totally resonate. But they've never seen this slide. I put it together especially for you guys. But it just goes, no magic bullet. No one way to become a product manager, right? Like the whole thing about demystifying the whole product manager field. Everybody can be a product manager, right? You don't have to be an expert. All you have to be is knowledgeable in your particular area. Embrace failures. Failures is good for you. That's how you learn. A quick analogy. I lived in Salt Lake City about 6 years ago. My sister and my cousin came to visit me, and they were younger. They're both younger, and I took them skiing because I used to ski a lot at the time. And I noticed the different attitude between the two. It's like my sister, both of them kept falling, right? It's like ski is your first time, and my sister kept, getting back up and trying again. And my cousin wasn't. She was more like, I don't want to do this. But at the end of the day, my sister could ski, my cousin couldn't, right? So that's the whole thing about embracing your failure. Right? You know you will fail, just embrace it and learn from it. You get better. Reward in the journey. If you master that, this is great. My doctorate program was 5 years, and for a lot of people going through a doctorate program, the goal is the PhD, right? Like the 3-letter at the end of your name, but that's actually not true. The reward is in the journey. What you will learn while doing it, like the trials and tribulation, the friction, the learning, the failure, and all that stuff, that is the reward, right? If you get that, like, this will be really good for you. Develop hard or soft skills. It doesn't hurt, right? I mentioned earlier that you do not have to be technical. You do not have to have technical. You do not have to know how to code. That's pretty much what I was trying to say earlier. But you do have to have some hard skills. Like you have to be, you have to know how to use Excel. You have to know how to work your way around data. You have to know your regressions, right? You have to know some math and some soft skills. Like, that's your people skills. Like, don't be the type of people that say hi back. Be the type of people that say hi first, right? If you say hi to somebody, it's easy for them to say hi back, right? Say hi. But you have to be the type of person that say hi the first, right? Because those are the ones that have those great people skills. Don't be the smartest in the room. We cover that. Surround yourself with people that challenge you, your colleagues, your significant other, maybe even your kids, right? Always be with people that challenge you, that push you to the next thing. Like product managers, you always want to be learning, right? So don't be the smartest in the room. And find your intrinsic motivators, find what motivates you. Again, that will carry you through your days. As a product manager, there is a lot of long days. But if you are motivated by something within, then that will carry you through.